who's died aged 51. Now, Elizabeth Braun changed the lives of thousands of inner-city children. She set up a youth club called Providence House in Battersea in South London and then twinned it with a working farm on Dartmoor. Children were taken off the streets and joined a positive community where friends were made and skills learned. Elizabeth Braun was the only child of the barrister Sir Henry Braun. Her Christian faith was central to her life, and she had started her career as editor of the Evangelical magazine. We spoke to Phil Dorman, who first went to Providence House as a teenager, and to Robert Musgrave, who worked with Elizabeth for 40 years and is now Director of Youth and Community Work at the club. He says Elizabeth started Providence House almost by accident.
Kids would notice this woman coming down the old streets and going into this church, and one of them sort of, let's who's going to go in and find out? So they kicked the ball in through an open door, and one of them was volunteered to go and get the ball. Please can we have our ball back? And she was in there with a group of ladies actually doing a Bible study. And the story is that, yeah, you can have your ball back, but sit down at the back and listen first. And then after that, there was a conversation, and that was the beginning. So, well, can we come in again? And so she started a Sunday school, actually. No, she had no intention of running a youth club or doing anything with young people. She was a writer, and that was it. And that's basically how it started. What it became, if you could imagine a very unsuitable old church with a flooded basement, with a leaking roof, or she turned the church into a youth club. The lads even tell you of ropes hanging from the ceiling and swinging off the balcony like it was an adventure playground. So that was her approach.
And now, Phil, when did you first go there? What age were you?
I went to Providence House when the original building that Rob's on about was then demolished as they developed the area. And then Miss Braun then obtained a new site, which incredibly she was behind it, you know, dealt with the architects and blah, 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 and physically built the building which stands today. So at 15, I went into that building.
What sort of a background did you come from?
You know, inner city, you know, domestic violence was normal. Not going to school was normal.
You could have gone the other way, couldn't you? You'd gone off the rails.
I would have gone the other way.
Yeah. You would have actually gone to prison.
Yeah, for sure.
Once the club was up and running, Elizabeth decided that the children would benefit from experiencing life in the country. First, she took them to Wales, and then she moved to a working farm on Dartmoor, which became a regular destination for club members.
She called her farm project A Lung for the City, and in summary, she felt that urban London was gasping for air, and that's why she went there.
This idea of having them at all came from me having lived among them in London, and knowing very well the estate life and how cramped it is in many ways, and how a lot of kids grow up there and very often don't have the opportunity of going out of London into a real country situation.
My name's Joe Hurst, and I'm one of the boys that's been coming down to the farm since the early 80s. I think I would have been about 8 when I first came down. I absolutely loved it down here, really loved it, had such a great time, and definitely went back home a happier chap than I'd left. But as an adult, I'm still coming down, and I'm temporary custodian of the farm. This herd, very healthy looking herd of South Devon, have currently got a bull in. Yep, some of them were from the original 12, I think. Daisy was the name of one of them. They all had individual names, and I can't remember all of them, but Miss Braun was quite fond of them, hence named them all. She was very tough. She had a particular way of doing things, and I think kids at that age need routine, and they need boundaries. And Miss Braun was very good at supplying both. And I think that Miss Braun's intervention was absolutely key to making sure that a lot of these boys never kind of found themselves in the degree of trouble that they may have found themselves in had they not have had the farm to come to, and just having somewhere where it wasn't the city, where your armour wasn't on, so all that falls away. You find out who you are underneath, and it has an accumulative effect. The more you come down here, the more you find out who you are underneath all the external construct, I suppose, that is your persona. When you live in a city and you live in that environment, it falls away.
I think you learn very quick, very easy, the true meaning and understanding of respect. She almost wouldn't need to speak it. You just look and you think, no, this is someone you don't mess with. And it was really weird. She never forgot anything. So you go back and you go, yeah, I've done this. And you can see she's counting, and then she'll go off on one because she's given me 10 tasks. I'm young and I've only done 9. I said, well, I forgot. And that's not good enough.
Don't tear it all apart. That's our bed. Right. Nicely looked after for you.
In a way, lads like you were getting a kind of family, a kind of parenting that you weren't getting at home.
100%.
And she didn't have her own children, did
She had no children. She never married.
So do you think these children became her family?
Very definitely, her children were the children she birthed, as it were, in Providence House and Shallowford.
The families and the people who've grown up themselves and come back to us have been a great help to us, and we've enjoyed all that, in between all the upsets we have too.
When it came to bury Elizabeth, the undertakers didn't have to lift a hand, because each of the boys each picked up a spade, and there were 2 spades there, and took it in turns to fill the grave in. I don't think they even asked if they could do it. And so you had this scene of these London lads of all ages, all colours, all religious backgrounds, all social backgrounds, everyone together, just picking up one of these spades. And that was very indicative of the type of respect and love that people had for her. And in Battersea, we wouldn't say, it's not in the vernacular to say, I really loved her. It's not how we speak. We would say we had a lot of love for her, which means the same thing, but allows us to be less soppy, I suppose.
Joe Hurst on Elizabeth Braund, MBE, who's died aged 91. Now, David Wall was the youngest